Everybody, welcome to another episode of What Would That Sound Like? The show where I take the tips and tricks from today's top thought leaders and show you how to communicate them to your teams, companies, and conferences. I'm your host, Sean Patrick, and that is a helicopter. But it's not going to stop us because I just finished my time with Ben and Kelly Decker's book, Communicate to Influence. If you are a presenter or you're getting into that, or you're not a presenter but you've been asked to present something, this is an awesome book that gives you a lot of great tips in making sure that your presentation is fun, it's fresh, it's engaging, that you're not losing people's attention. I'm going to break down just a few of my takeaways to give you a couple of pieces of information you can put into practice right now, today. And so let's jump in. Figure out what would that sound like. So as any presenter knows, the last thing you want to see in your audience as you're giving your presentation is people nodding off, zoning out, scrolling on Instagram on their phones, answering emails, anything that communicates that what you're saying is not getting through and it's not important. So the way that we make sure that we don't get that is to try and ensure that our content is fun, it's fresh, and we avoid common mistakes that presenters make. So let's jump into the mistakes part. I'm going to give you 3 common mistakes that we as presenters fall into when presenting. So 3 common mistakes we can fall into when communicating. The first one is this: TMI, too much information. If your presentation is just loaded with stats and details and content that's all the same note, you will lose your audience. A lot of us do like some statistics. We do like numbers because they are quickly eye-opening. But if your presentation is all 75% of blah, 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 and then 85% of the, we will tune it out. If there's too much content and it's not diversified, you'll lose us. You can have a lot of good content, but make sure you break it up with different things. Break it up not just with numbers, but with stories, anecdotes, metaphors, pictures or videos, quotes, something that changes things up. Keep us on our toes in a way that our mind is engaging different parts of our brain. Ah, yes, numbers and analytics. Ah, yes, a funny photo that illustrates the point. Ah, an emotional story that connects with us. Keep it fresh and don't try to pack so much information into what you're saying. The truth is, we only remember, I think, 10 to 20% of what a speaker says. So even though you think that your whole presentation is something that everyone needs to know, and maybe it is, just know that if you keep it simple and focus on the important information, people will retain it better. So first one, TMI, too much information. The second one, if you lack authenticity about either what you're talking about or who you're talking to, that will be a huge pitfall to run into. We've seen it before, people talking about something that they don't seem to care about. We tone it out. If you're talking about a product or service or something that's going to help your audience or inspire or motivate them, but you're just not coming off that you authentically care about those people, we tune it out. Think about it like this. All of us have had a moment where someone's apologized for something and it's been really genuine and we're like, I forgive you. Like, yeah, let's move on. We've also had the reverse of it when someone's like, I'm sorry. Does that feel like someone you want to learn from? Does that feel like someone you want to listen to? No, because it's not authentic, it's not genuine, and it's the same when we're presenting our information, is it needs to feel like something we actually care about and that we're delivering it to people that we care about as well. So don't fall into the mistake of lacking authenticity. The third and final mistake is being unprepared. It's so simple, but it is so important, and I can't tell you how uncomfortable it is when you have someone on a stage or in a meeting who's looking at their feet because they just don't know what to do. They've got their face in their notes because they're not prepared. It shuts you off immediately. And why is that? Because our time is valuable. If we're sitting at a conference or sitting in a meeting, we don't want to feel like you're just wasting our time because you didn't even come prepared for this thing. That is a really great and quick way to lose all of your audience if you make them feel like you're here, you're unprepared, and you don't care about their time. So don't fall into that trap, that mistake of coming unprepared. Don't get that mistaken or don't get that confused with being nervous about something. That's a normal human response. But make sure you come in prepared to present your information to the best of your abilities. Now, those are the 3 mistakes that I wanted to hit. The next thing I wanted to talk about is how we communicate in a way that is going to connect with our audience. So not the mistakes that we make, but the flip side of that. Here's what you need to know. Communication needs inspiration. Communication needs inspiration. Let me put it this way. Communication without inspiration is dead. Communication without inspiration, dead. You need to try to build an emotional connection with your audience. That's critical to inspiring action, inspiring change, whether you're trying to sell them a product, sell them an idea, or just motivate and encourage them. You need to have inspiration partnered with your communication to do that. Real quick, I'll hit two ways we do this. The first one, we talked about it before, you need to make sure that you're authentic about something. If you want to inspire somebody, if you want to convince someone to believe in something or to buy something, you got to come across like you believe it and buy it too. So that's a simple one. We already talked about lack of authenticity, so we won't go into it too much further. The second one is you got to add emotional triggers to your content. The best way that I can explain this, I guess before I get into that, think of it this way. You need to have stories, anecdotes, photos, something that conveys not just content, not just information, but stirs emotion. It can be a positive, happy emotion. It can be a sad, challenging emotion, but something that connects you with your audience on an emotional level. Let me give you a great example of this. Years ago, there was a beer company that was putting out a commercial. Most of us have seen We've all seen commercials. Most of us have seen beer commercials, and we know it could just be presented as this is the best beer, this is how we make it, this is how great it is, that it's enjoyable with friends, watch it on the big, you're drinking at the big game, whatever it is. You're conveying content and information. Well, these guys went a different route. Instead of just communicating all of that type of stuff, what they did was they put out a commercial where the first half of it we see a group of friends and they're playing wheelchair basketball, which already kind of catches our eye and our imagination because most of us have never seen that, or if we have, it's not a very frequent thing that we see. So it's something out of the ordinary. It's remarkable. They're playing wheelchair basketball for the first half of this. Then after that, they all go to a pub and they get a drink, and everyone but one friend actually steps up and out of their wheelchair, and you discover that there's only one friend in this group who's in a wheelchair, but his buddies came around him, wanted to make sure he felt included and that they were all a part of the same thing, and so they all got wheelchairs and they were committed to playing basketball with him in the only way that he could. That story not only strikes an emotional chord, that commercial when we watch it doesn't just strike an emotional chord, it actually won awards. That commercial won awards. It communicates so much more powerfully the message of this is the best beer to drink with friends. Whatever they're trying to say, it communicates that so much more powerfully than if they just said, here's how we make it. It's great to drink while you're watching the game. Friends love this beer. It communicates so much more because it has an emotional component to it as opposed to just a content component to it. So try to figure out how to communicate your content weaving in stories that have an emotional component or pictures or whatever it is. A great way to do that, honestly, jump online. You can find a ton of great stuff, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter, of quick videos or photos that will illustrate your point in a way that doesn't just become content heavy, but becomes emotionally stirring. So remember, don't fall into those 3 traps that presenters make, and make sure that your presentation is filled with inspiration, leaving your audience with motivation to take action. Presenters? I don't even know what that was. Presenters. Hey, I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you do have a presentation, a keynote, something like that coming up, feel free to reach out. I'd love to help you out. You can get at me at my personal email address, SeanPatrickDJ, SEAN, PatrickDJ@gmail. If you just want to get my free PDF to make sure that you're ready for it, click the link below and I will send that your way. I'd love to connect with you and be a part of your network. You can find me at LinkedIn, Instagram, pretty much anywhere on the internet at SeanPatrickDJ. I would love to connect and be a part of your network. Until next time, we'll see you right back here on What Would That Sound Like?